A shiver ran through Jack as Mark attached the last clamp to his nipple. He could feel his heart racing in his chest, not so much over excitement as it was for the fear of being zapped. Twisting hard against the tight ropes around his wrist, Jack nervously asked Mark, "Seriously, Mark, will this hurt?" Mark stood up, holding the nipple clamp remote out for him to clearly see. Then, with a wicked smile, Mark told him a little too casually, "The shock doesn't hurt nearly as bad as the burn after. I have it on a low setting to start. Although, with one word, we can avoid this altogether." Jack gritted his teeth in indecision. He had already come so close to saying it before, but knowing it was the only thing Mark wanted to hear, he just couldn't say it. Mark would hold it over him. He'd rub it in his face that he got it out of him. Jack wanted to damn his pride, but was too stubborn. He had survived the hot sauce. He would survive this. Jack closed his eyes tightly for a second to gather his courage, and then when he opened them, Mark was leaning in close to him, staring him down with his deep chocolate eyes. Mark whispered seductively close to Jack's lips, "Why are you resisting? It's just one simple word. Just say it, Jack." Jack nervously licked his dry lips before stubbornly hissing back through his clenched teeth, "If it's just a word, then why do you want to hear it so badly, huh? Isn't your ego big enough?" Grinning, Mark straightened up very slowly, his eyes never leaving Jack's when he replied darkly, "Be worried about your own ego, Jack. I wouldn't want you to go off too early again." Jack closed his legs and turned away with an embarrassed scowl, muttering sourly, "You asshole." Mark reached out to gently run a hand through Jack's hair to clear the bangs off his face, adding sweetly, "You never heard the story of the tortoise and the hare? Speed isn't everything." To Mark's reply, Jack chuckled and mumbled out under his breath, "That's rich coming from a guy who struggled with vanish." Mark tried to remain emotionless to that comment, but his eyes narrowed as he pressed the button. Jack hadn't been expecting the shock, and practically screamed in both terror and surprise. Jerking his legs up as if to protect himself from the shock, he wound up slumping forward down the chair. It wasn't really all that bad, but it still sucked. Just as Mark had said, the shock felt weird and strangely euphoric, but when the shock ended, his nipples felt sore from not just the tight clamp squeezing his nipples, but also from the slight warm burn the clamps produced. Glancing down at his sore nipples, Jack cursed breathlessly. Then, to release some pent-up aggression, Jack tried to kick Mark in the gut. Mark managed to dodge it in time as Jack yelled out at him, "Son of a bitch!" Mark chuckled a little, only to shoot back, "Did I scare you, Jack?" Scowling, Mark bitterly mumbled back, "I hate you." Mark pointed to Jack's grown hard-on, telling him smugly, "You sure? 'Cause it looked to me like you rather enjoyed that." Jack didn't think it was possible to blush any harder, but he managed to somehow. He had been hoping Jack wouldn't have noticed his reaction. Hell, his reaction had even surprised him. Mark crept back in to lightly trace his warm lips along Jack's slightly pointed ear, whispering, "Seems I stumbled across your kinky fetish, Jack. How long can you last now?" Mark made a show of turning up the remote right before Jack's face. Then, very menacingly, Mark straightened up, asking in that dark, deep tone of voice, "This is the last time I will ask you, Jack. Say it, or I'll let these play until the batteries die. Your choice." Jack nearly snaked a short glance at him through the corner of his eyes. He seemed too embarrassed and headstrong to say or to do anything. Sighing loudly, Mark picked up the other remote as well, adding shortly, "Don't say I didn't warn you." Setting the vibrator beads on high, Mark set it to run continuously. Jack slumped even farther down the chair, biting his lower lip in an attempt not to make any sounds. Mark didn't stop there. He also dropped between Jack's milky white thighs to very lightly slide his soft, warm lips up and down Jack's hardening shaft. Jack's body began to quiver from the strain of trying to maintain his self-control. Despite Jack's hardest efforts, he found himself breathing heavier and releasing small, sharp moans of pleasure. Mark knew his body all too well. Those light touches and strong vibrating beads would be the death of him. Biting his lower lip harder, Jack tried to get his focus back. He could beat Mark by the power of will. At least, that was what he believed, until Mark started zapping his nipples on and off. The shock of not knowing when the next one was coming, on top of Mark's other simulations, was proving too much for his body to take at once. Jack's legs started to stomp against the floor, trying to jerk up, but Mark's arms were holding them down. While Mark's lips and tongue teased the head of his aching cock, Jack's wrist twisted against the ropes furiously, not feeling even a little pain of boning. Jack's moans grew louder and louder until he gave up trying to suppress them anymore, belting out sharp wails of overwhelming pleasure. He was so close to the edge. His legs were going numb, and a pressure was building between his legs. Mark didn't slow down or speed up. He just acted like he didn't notice that Jack was rapidly reaching his limits. With one last unexpected shock, Jack arched back up in the chair, calling out as he ejaculated sperm. "Oh, fuck." Mark sat back on his heels, wiping some of Jack's warm sperm off his cheek and a little disappointed. Jack hadn't said it like he thought he would. Unfortunately, he reluctantly concluded that if Jack hadn't said it by now, he wasn't going to. Jack was just too stubborn. It wasn't a race, though. He learned a new way to simulate Jack. Climbing slowly back to his feet, Mark turned off the remotes and brushed a warm tear from Jack's eyes, asking sweetly, "You all right?" Jack just nodded, and Mark guessed his voice had given out. Not really from excessive screaming, but from excessive screaming after a throat still coated in hot sauce. Gently pulling the vibrating bead slowly out of Jack, he playfully told him, "You know, the rule still stands. You can't leave until you say it. So, I guess I'll be back tomorrow for you." As he removed the last bead, Jack slowly adjusted to sit back in the seat properly, acting both exhausted and curiously. "What about a compromise? I'll meet you halfway." Mark tugged the clamps swiftly from Jack's nipples, making him flinch, before answering him coolly, "Why can't you just say it?" A little flustered, Jack replied, "Because if I say it, it will go to your head. You'll start getting cocky and think you own my ass. I won't say it. You are already king of the squirrels, and the king of Five Nights at Freddy's. You're not going to be my master, too." Mark smiled, moving around to set Jack free from the ropes. He had never really thought about it before. Being a professional at everything was just his playful way. He hadn't really thought about how he had quite a list of titles to his name. Setting the toys back on his cart, he told Jack honestly, "Never really occurred to me before. I guess you make a fair case. Still, rules are rules." Jack slowly and shakily climbed out of the chair to approach Mark quietly from behind. Standing as steadily as he could manage, he told Mark nervously, "What if I told you that there was another name I would call you by? Something just as good. Something that explains why I like resisting." Mark slowly turned around to face him with a look of pure curiosity. He had gotten Mark's full attention, trying to build himself up confidently enough. Jack took a step or two closer to Mark, staring him deep in those eyes of his that to say seductively cute. "I just need to be disciplined by Daddy Mark." At first, Mark didn't say or do anything. Then a smile spread across his face, and he pulled Jack into a deep kiss. To be continued.